Areas. Leading media offices were targeted, with protesters burning property, endangering journalists and clashing with security forces in scenes of utter lawlessness. But this is not an instant reaction or a spontaneous one. It's a vehement belief that the interim government's chief, Mohammad Yunus, saw this coming. Some others believe that he quietly watched as the pot first simmered and then boiled over. In recent months, voices both from inside and outside Bangladesh have raised very hard questions about Mohammad Yunus's regime's tolerance, if not tacit support, for these radical elements. As Bangladesh teeters on the edge of deeper unrest, the world watches whether this latest wave of violence will be a passing flare-up, or will this be the beginning of a prolonged struggle, whether it's on political legitimacy, whether it's on radical influence, or the future of the nation's democratic identity itself. And here in India, the danger of a spillover is clear and present. But as the head of the interim government, Mohammad Yunus spoke about this particular incident last evening. He did talk about calling for calm, calling for restraint, which many say is nothing but mere lip service.
আইনশৃঙ্খলা রক্ষাকারী বাহিনী ও সংশ্লিষ্ট সংস্থাগুলোকে পেশাদারিত্বের সঙ্গে তদন্ত কার্যক্রম পরিচালনা করার সুযোগ দিন। রাষ্ট্র আইনের শাসন প্রতিষ্ঠায় সম্পূর্ণরূপে প্রতিশ্রুতিবদ্ধ। আমি আবারও স্পষ্টভাবে বলতে চাই, ওসমান হাদি ছিলেন পরাজিত শক্তি ফ্যাসিস্ট সন্ত্রাসীদের শত্রু। তার একান্ত ইচ্ছা ছিল আসন্ন নির্বাচনে প্রতিদ্বন্দ্বিতা করে নতুন বাংলাদেশ বিনির্মাণের পরবর্তী ধাপে সক্রিয় ভূমিকা রাখা। আগামী দিনগুলোতে আমাদের সবাইকে ধৈর্য, সংযম, সাহস ও দূরদর্শিতার সঙ্গে এগিয়ে যেতে হবে। অপপ্রচার ও গুজবে কান না দেই এবং যে কোনো হঠকারী সিদ্ধান্ত থেকে বিরত থাকে।
The head of the interim government in Bangladesh, Mohammad Yunus, shared that particular condemnation. He tried to shed some tears over the death of the radical leader Sharif Osman Hadi, whose mortal remains have now been flown into Bangladesh from Singapore, where he was receiving treatment and eventually succumbed to his injuries. But Mohammad Yunus made a hollow appeal, asking the citizens of Bangladesh to not take law into their own hands. But are they really listening? Because that appeal didn't find any takers. There were scenes that played out in the last 24 hours from the streets of Dhaka. This is exactly what happened last night, and India is bearing the brunt of it. The Assistant High Commission of India in Chittagong was a target. There was a violent mob that was right outside the Indian High Commission there in Chittagong. There were stones that were hurled at the mission. The premises were damaged. There were violent clashes with security personnel right outside, and all of this went up to the wee hours of this morning. No Indian diplomats or officials were injured, but the safety of our diplomatic staff or our diplomatic mission is extremely important, and that is now concerning for New Delhi. The widespread violence was targeted towards India, but also towards those who are believed to be moderately liberal there, or those who have been in support of Sheikh Hasina. Several offices and properties of the Awami League were targeted. They were vandalized and demolished. These kind of visuals that you saw all of last evening, all of last night, are not just mere protests, but there was arson and vandalism as well. Sheikh Mujib's home was also demolished, was brought down using a JCB by these protesters. This anti-India sentiment that we're seeing seems to be on a rise across Bangladesh. A 30-year-old Hindu, Deepu Chandra Das, was brutally lynched and set on fire by a mob yesterday. The victim was a garment factory worker at the Pioneer Knit Composite Factory. This is in the Square Mastabari area. The mob accused him of blasphemy for allegedly making derogatory remarks during a factory event. There's no real proof of that. Some reports suggest the remarks were as simple as him stating all religions are equal. But that seems to have irked this radical mob, who last evening took law into their own hands. At around 9 p.m, that mob surrounded Deepu Chandra Das and beat him to death. They tied him to a pole and then set him ablaze. The attackers tied his body to a tree at the Square bus stand and then set it on fire for everyone to watch. What did Mohammad Yunus do? Not a word of condemnation, not a tear shed for him. The situation in Dhaka continues to remain tense. Over the last 24 hours, like I've pointed out, these horrific scenes of arson, violence and vandalism have been emerging. Here's a ground report that exposes the extent of damage 24 hours on. Listen in.
Right now, I'm in front of one of the burned news media office. This is one of the leading Bangladeshi newspaper. This is the most read Bangladeshi newspaper in the entire world. I'm here in front of the other news media. The Daily Star buildings also was burned last night, and there was a huge protest after the young leader Sharif Osman Hadi's death. It was shot 1 week before, and last night he was confirmed dead in Singapore. And after that, there was lots of chaos inside the city. So this is one of the places I will show you around. So as you can see, there is already police have sealed the places, and there is it's become a crime scene zone. You can see there is police car, and also inside the building police are collecting the evidence. And this was one of the leading newspaper. Already they were not able to publish today's newspaper, and their online transmissions also not working properly, and it's been stopped actually, if I can say, as the police are heavily guarded here.
Anti-India sentiments have been simmering in Bangladesh following the fall of Sheikh Hasina's government last year. Many believe that the recent trigger has been the buzz of upcoming elections in the country. They're supposed to happen sometime in the first half of next year. A number of factors can be attributed to the violence. One is that the anti-India narrative distracts the public attention from the economic distress that we're seeing in Bangladesh. The pretext of external threats, as is being spoken of, is widely used to delay these elections, something that Mohammad Yunus was under extreme pressure to call for. Furthermore, India bashing also placates Islamists ahead of elections, and many would say that Mohammad Yunus has been giving a complete free hand to these radical elements in Bangladesh. It also aligns with China-Pakistan nexus that seems to be providing Bangladesh and the Mohammad Yunus regime leverage. A volatile situation then secures political advantage for Mohammad Yunus, who is not an elected leader, mind you, who was put there to ensure that there is a peaceful transition to power for democracy to prevail. It has been anything but in the last 1.5 years. So as we see this kind of sentiment that's being whipped up in Bangladesh against India, is this spillover going to have an effect on India? And if it does, the kind of hate that we're seeing there, is this something that is state sanctioned? That's what we ask here on Plain Speak.
They have to distract attention from the public in a way that would, give the ruling dispensation some advantages, since they have taken an anti-India line as part of their policy.
देखो इसमें इफेक्ट तो ये है, ये लोग शांत नहीं है। यूनिस जो है ये पूरा के पूरा सत्ता में रहने के लिए बहुत कुछ कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
There are certain forces who are not very friendly to India, who are trying to create a difficult situation in Bangladesh.
Let's open this up. Pinaki Ranjan, former High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, is with us. Sara Karta, former Director of NSCS. Asif Bin Ali, Bangladeshi journalist, is with us as well. Thank you all for joining us here on Plain Speak. Asif Bin Ali, I want to begin by asking you, what exactly is happening now? I mean, we saw the kind of scenes that transpired late last night, beginning last evening, all the way up to the wee hours of this morning. But has the situation bettered now in Bangladesh, or is it only going to be a downward spiral from here on?
Thank you very much for inviting me. The situation is still developing, and the situation is volatile. There is no doubt. But what happened last night, particularly like 7 or 8 hours ago from now, it was unthinkable. I don't think nobody in Bangladesh thought that in one morning, evening, a group of 200, 300 people will go and then start burning like country's two biggest newspaper, which are like the foundation of our free press. It was very shocking for everyone. And initially, I would say the government failed in order to protect those places. However, the military stepped in, and what we can see, like based on the report and the social media lives and everything, that military was able to, control that mob without firing or without escalating any more further violence. Because as you know, like in such situation, any kind of death by in the hand of the police or the state forces could have escalated the situation. So that's a good news, that when they are trying to disperse this mob, There was no more violence from the state end. So that seems a good relief, because now the citizens are, coming together to express their support for the newspaper, to express their support for the free press. And today morning, what happened, like some of the senior citizens of the country, civil society members, political party representatives went to the destroyed building of Daily Star and the Prothomalo. They publicly showed their support for that. And all over the country, there was condemnation of the violence. And it is also getting very clear that the people who carried out this violence, they're particularly involved with the far-right threat that we are recently figuring out. And I would not disregard that these far-right do particularly well preparing for such kind of event for some time since the brutal attack happened on Hadi. So on the ground, the situation is relatively under control. However, we would be able to confirmly say that it's fully under control maybe within the next 12 or 24 hours.
And we do hope, for the sake of the country and for the sake of India, that things do not spiral out of control like they did late last night. But Ambassador Chakravarti, I want to ask you this. You know, the fact that India's missions were targeted, I mean, that's something that there has to be a red line that's drawn.
Indeed, I think there are international conventions, the Vienna Conventions, which guarantee the safety and security of a diplomatic mission. But I'm afraid this government has failed basically to provide good governance, and I think this is the problem now in Bangladesh. And I dare say that the violence against the Indian High Commission and the media house that you just mentioned, the Daily Star and Prothomalo, was completely organized. I don't think it was disorganized. It was meant to convey a message, whatever numbers they had gathered, and we know who are these forces. And I think these forces are acting against the interests not just of India and media, but also against their own country ultimately, because this is not going to give any credit to Bangladesh. And I think our diplomatic missions will be protected. I believe so, because I have been there many, many years. And I think the Bangladesh police and military are capable of doing it. But the very fact that these organizations, or whoever, the right wing or whatever, are able to mount these kind of spontaneous action shows that there is a deeper conspiracy behind all this. Unfortunately, anodyne statements from the chief advisor's office or chief advisor himself, sometimes I feel that they are all hand in glove with this, that it is probably organized with the full support of this interim government, which of course they will deny. And then they will put out some anodyne statement saying this or that. Let me end by saying that in Bangladesh, there is a deep, in one section, there is a deep anti-Indian feeling, because their forefathers never wanted a free Bangladesh. They wanted to be Pakistanis, continue to be Pakistanis. And the Jamaat-e-Islami is the prime example of that. And many of the Islamist other organizations also. Because Jamaat-e-Islami has been a proxy and fifth column for Pakistan ever since 1971. And they have been also, hobnobbing with the Americans and others who have used them for this kind of purpose. So in my view, the current situation is very bad. Bangladesh is today a disaster zone. And I think unless the government I think the best way of Bangladesh now, best option for Bangladesh, is to calm things down and have an early election. And if that does not happen, I'm afraid we will see more such violence, because there is a big lobby, a powerful lobby, who do not want elections to be held, who want to hang on to power, who want to exercise all the power they're enjoying now. I'm afraid if that happens, then Bangladesh is in trouble.
And speaking of those elections, many would actually think, Tarakarta, that this sort of attack that is now being mounted is not spontaneous in the sense that we've seen the signs of it building up. And if not a tacit support by the administration or the regime there definitely has been some amount of tolerance towards it, which is why it's allowed such sentiment to fester. Is this also then an attempt to try and push elections as further as possible?
No, you're absolutely right in the tolerance of violence. I mean, we've been seeing this now for months together, right? This kind of thing happening, and they do nothing. The police effectively got beaten back. That's what we saw. Now, at least I'm happy to see that they've come back into some amount of strength. So they are there on the ground. That's a good thing. But is it an attempt to get elections off? I would agree with the ambassador. It does seem to be that way. And I would put this not without sort of going over the line that there are some parties who thought they had a larger base than they did. The most of the rural areas still have the mainstream parties are in support. They have a large base of support. So if the elections were just announced, I think 3 days ago or 4 days ago or something, and then this attack on this man happens. So there is definitely a sense that if Jamaat-e-Islami comes to power, then that is what they want, that is what they're working towards, and I think there are a bunch of people supporting that. So it's a party like BNP, for example, they have a very strong hold on this country, and so does the Awami League. So it's not going to be so easy. So there you go. And I absolutely agree. The Prothamalu, if I'm not mistaken, or it was the Daily Star, which brought out a supplement on Liberation Day. I mean, it was just the standard supplement which they bring out every year saying, the glory. That was also part of the reason why they went and attacked these people. But these are planned attacks to wipe out all legacy of Mujibur Rahman, any reference to what happened then, which is really unfortunate. This is not the Bangladesh that one would hope would stabilize, under this government.
And a destabilized Bangladesh spells bad news for India. But before I get in more comments, I request all of you to stay on with us because we have some more information that's now trickling in. Of course, this is a volatile situation that we are currently in as far as Bangladesh goes. And the spillover effect could happen onto certain states in India. And that's really a concern that many are looking at. This is a video that we've accessed from West Bengal. This is in Petropol, where we're given to understand that anti-India slogans were being heard from the other side of the border. So this is a protest this is a video in which you see protesters hurling abuses, hurling anti-India rants from just across the border, from where people into the Indian side can actually hear these kind of comments. That's really now the issue of how this sort of sentiment is permeating not just into these political factions that seem to be ruling the roost there, or these radical elements that seem to be ruling the roost there, but also commoners perhaps are now partaking in this sort of ratcheting up of anti-India narrative. And that's really the bigger issue, Ambassador Chakravarti, also, isn't it? Because India needs to look at that too. Pakistan and China would want to fish in the so-called troubled waters of Bangladesh and spell trouble for India.
And the USA have been fishing in these waters and muddying it. And they do not want Awami League back in power, or the BNP, in my view. They are supporting the Jamaat-e-Islami and its allies, or whoever they are, because they want Jamaat-e-Islami to come to power, because obviously they have done some deal or something like that. Blaming India is an old habit in Bangladesh. Anything happens, the fallback and the default position is to blame India. And it seems to have gone into their DNA for whatever reason. And I think that I've heard it so many times. Anything happens that, India got it done, India did it, etc., etc. Now, this comes out of a certain, obviously, mindset which has been built over the years because of our history, the legacy that we have, and of course the fact that the asymmetry really rankles in the smaller countries. So I think these are all factors we have to deal with. We are dealing with it, and I don't think, these anti-India slogans that we talked about at the border. Let me also say that some people will make these slogans just to keep themselves safe. Because the next day I find that the same people will come to the visa center and ask for visas. If you are so anti-Indian, don't come to India. Stay there. But that does not happen. They have to come to India because the people have requirements, medical and other things. So I think this is a facade sometimes. Some people have become anti-Indian, or they are showing they are anti-Indian because they want to be on the right side of the mobs. So this is the kind of situation we are facing. So unless things settle down and we have elections and a proper government comes to power, then I don't think this is going to stop, because this is already a very toxic mixture of politics, of interference, foreign interference, and all these things. So I wish Bangladesh well, and I hope they get out of this quickly.
And the political certainty or uncertainty of the future of Bangladesh as a democracy, Mr. Ali, is also under a cloud, many would say, because the two biggest parties, the BNP and the Awami League, one sort of has been pushed out of the picture, which is the Awami League, and the BNP has its own issues of fragmentation. So eventually, even when elections are held, what is the guarantee that these sort of radical elements are not really ruling the roost once again?
So before I address your question, I just wanted to make two remarks with my learned colleague's point. When I agree with both of them that the attack seems very organized and well orchestrated, and I also have no doubt about it, but I do not think the attack happened with the support of administration. That would be over exaggeration of what was happening on the ground. I have no doubt the administration had failed to protect the institutions. But saying that the attack happened direct or indirect support of the administrations would not be appropriate way of looking at the situations. The second thing also, regarding its DNA in Bangladesh to blame India, I think those of us, including my learned colleagues, they also know that having anti-Bangladesh sentiment in West Bengal or in Assam, or having anti-India sentiment in Bangladesh, it's in a kind of political fashion. Whenever there are situations like economic or other kind of things, the political leaders go for the easy thing. Okay, let's blame the neighbors. Let's blame the outsiders. So these remains some of the popular political concept. But when it comes to the administrative level, I think both the country's administrators and at the government to government level, there was better understanding. However, right now the better understanding is at questions. And also it's important to understand people's sentiment. The reason currently the anti-India sentiment raised in Bangladesh, it's not only because people don't like India, because I was reading a recent survey report that came out 3 months ago. The survey report clearly shows that Bangladeshis wants a more understandable relationship with India and don't like those rhetorics. But the point happens is that in the public perception, people are seeing that Sheikh Hasina, that which many people believe are responsible for the situation that happened during the July-August, and now taking shelter in India. And then when Mr. Hadi was assassinated, and the person who was involved with that assassination, a group of journalists came out with some photographs suggesting that these killers allegedly took shelter in India. Now, this I cannot prove right now because a legal court procedure needed to prove those evidence. But what happened is that when this information came out
based on that mere conjecture, we saw the kind of arson and violence that broke out there. People lost their lives. A Hindu man was tied to a tree and burnt alive. I mean, there really is no justification of what we saw in Bangladesh in the last 24 hours. But speaking about Sheikh Hasina, and I do want to speak to our panelists on that. Before that, we have some more information that's now trickling in. I request all of you to stay on with us because, like we've been discussing, Pakistan and its ISI is back to its dirty plot in Bangladesh. CNN News 18, in fact, has been tracking these developments since October. In the backdrop of the fall of Sheikh Hasina government last year, it's now clear that Pakistan's ISI had a role to play in what is unfolding today. In fact, what we are learning is that Pakistan's link has emerged so clearly in this crisis that from October, Pakistan established this ISI cell at the High Commission in Dhaka, which sort of put together this entire plot, is what we're learning via our intelligence sources, following which India had raised a strong protest as well, even summoned the Bangladesh's High Commissioner, raising an alarm. But Bangladesh in cohorts with Pakistan and the ISI seems to have let this pot boil. In fact, add fuel to the fire to ensure that such scenes would eventually be seen on the streets of Bangladesh. Anand Narasimhan now joins us, getting us more details on this as well. Anand, what more can you tell us? How exactly has Pakistan been puppeting this entire, or orchestrating this entire events as they unfold in Bangladesh?
Well, good evening, Poonam, and good evening to our viewers here on CNN News 18. On the 29th of October, that was when the ISI cell was established at the High Commission of Dhaka. And this was with the blessings of Mohammad Yunus, and there were pictures, and CNN News 18 had broken this on that day itself. In fact, you mentioned soon after, on the basis of News 18's media report, New Delhi actually summoned Bangladesh's High Commissioner and lodged a protest too. Thereafter, on the 19th of November, the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval raised this issue with his Bangladesh counterpart Khalilur Rahman, and this was on the sidelines of the Colombo Security Conclave Summit in New Delhi. Thereafter, this is now openly, it's now an open secret that the ISI is clearly meddling in and also trying to advise certain elements within the Yunus administration on how to stoke this anti-India sentiment and how to brew the entire public mood against the Awami League and Sheikh Hasina. In fact, Premier Intelligence Agency ISI's Major General and other officers were accompanied with General Shahid Shamshad Mirza in October on a 4-day tour to Bangladesh. They actually met with the National Security Intelligence and Directorate General of Forces Intelligence, DGFI officers in Dhaka. The people who went there, 1 brigadier, 2 colonels, 4 majors, intelligence officials from Air Force, Navy and supporting staff, they were appointed in the first phase at a special cell in Pakistan High Commission in Dhaka.
Right.
And that's the reason why whatever is happening in Dhaka seems to be orchestrated, controlled, provoked, instigated, planned by Rawalpindi. Poonam.
Right, Anand, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. And Tarakarta, like we were discussing, this of course should come as no surprise to anyone in India, because this sort of collusion between Pakistan and Bangladesh is not new, and it's not going to end in the near future, despite the fact that there may be elections that are held there.
I just want to bring one thing out. I mean, reference to what we said in this is the fact that what he said, that, you know, these people who killed this man was fled into India, that was released to the public, and that was bad enough. And then our High Commissioner was summoned and told to bring back these people. These people should be brought back to the most logical thing which the Yunus government could have done was to talk to the High Commission and said, look, these people may have fled there. Can you help us? And definitely India would stand up and help them. I really want to, because this is what added fuel to the fire. That is what. Number 2, the ISI link is expected. I mean, he said so. The army chief has said, we will attack you from the east. That is what the Pakistan army said. Now, my only faith is with Bangladesh's army. The army is a very stable institution. The chief is an extremely respected person. So one hopes, and I think we can see some kind of, stability from that side. But that the ISIs, I mean, the Pakistan embassy, the High Commissioner, look at the activities that he's up to. He's all over the place. He's in the universities. He's talking to certain other countries whom I will not raise at this point. But there is a very dangerous amount of activity going on there, which is not good for Bangladesh itself. And I don't think the ordinary Bangladeshis on the street they want stability. They don't want this. And this is definitely, okay, I'm going to just say this out. This killing of this man, what is the motive? Why should, I mean, he was just another person who was part of this gang who was talking anti-India stuff and things. All of them were doing it. He was not anything unique. And by the way, that whole talk about Northeast India was started by Yunus, not by them.
Exactly.
They just took the lead from him. So let's put this squarely where it rests. I mean, I don't think we should shy away from saying this. This man is not good for Bangladesh. They deserve better.
But all of this, Ambassador Chakravarti, eventually boils down to what happened last year and the fact that Sheikh Hasina has been in India. A lot of this sort of tirade that we're seeing in Bangladesh is because India is being accused of sheltering someone we should not, which is in Sheikh Hasina. That is the allegation that comes in from Bangladesh's side. Given what has transpired in the last 24 hours and the risks that India could face along its borders and otherwise, do you think that there is a rethink perhaps required as to our strategy with Sheikh Hasina and keeping her here?
Well, let me first begin by saying that we did not invite her over.
Sure.
She was brought here by her own army, who requested in an emergency situation that, that she may be killed and that can we deposit her in India. That's what happened. And now they are saying that we are sheltering. We did not invite her. We didn't say, please come over, we will shelter you. Now, once she is here in Delhi, then and there were no convictions against her. So they kept on saying, hand her over. On what grounds? If she doesn't want to go, we cannot force her to. Then, of course, they did this, kangaroo trial and sentenced her to death. Then they again asked, so we said, look, we have a signed agreement between us, which is called the extradition agreement. You want to get her back? Please follow that agreement. But they are not willing to follow that. They are only indulging in rhetoric. She's a killer, she's this and she's that, hand her over. Such peremptory demands. The Indian government has been remarkably patient. And we have not really reacted to this kind of peremptory demands that they have been making. So we have simply said that if you want to come, if you want Hasina back, please come and can initiate extradition proceedings under the agreement, under the Indian law. That is what is going to apply. That nothing else will matter. Moreover, we are not a country which simply hands over, people who take refuge in India. Right from the days when Dalai Lama came to India. So I think we have a certain ethos, and I don't think that ethos will permit us to just hand over Hasina, and she'll be butchered. The day she lands there, the moment she steps down.
And that's the biggest concern India has, given the kind of scenes that we've seen in Bangladesh.
She did not get a fair trial, and she's unlikely to be treated fairly, because Bangladesh has a history of killing leaders even in jail. Let's not forget that. Everybody knows that. The leaders who fought for their independence and who were jailed went and killed in jail. That's the reputation.
And there definitely cannot be a repeat of what Bangladesh has seen in its bloodied history. The people of Bangladesh deserve better, and we hope that we do not see a repeat of what we saw in the last 24 hours there. But I have to leave it there. I thank you all for joining us here on Plain Speak. Shifting focus to what's transpiring back home, a devotee of Lord Muruga died by self-immolation in Madurai in Tamil Nadu over the state government's refusal to allow Hindus to light the Kartikeya Deepam lamp at the sacred hill. The victim, approximately 40 years, set himself on fire near a Periyar statue after locking himself inside a police outpost. He succumbed to severe burn injuries shortly after. Purnachandran left a voice message to a friend that was later shared with his family, expressing his intent to end his life in protest against the state government's decision. He says that he referenced Periyar's atheistic views and hoped that his sacrifice would enable the ritual to take place in its full glory next year.
ஏன் இதை பெரியார் சிலை முன் நிகழ்த்தினேன்னா, திருப்பரங்குன்றத்திலே போய் நிகழ்த்தலான்னு எனக்கு ஒரு எண்ணம் இருந்துச்சு. ஆனால் நான் இப்படி ஒரு காரியம் பண்ணுறேன், அந்த காரியத்தினால அந்த கோயிலுக்கு களங்கம் ஏற்படக்கூடாதுன்னு தான் அதை பெரியார் சிலை முன்னாடி நடத்துகிறேன். கடவுள் இல்லைன்னு சொல்கிறவங்களுக்கு முன்னாடி கடவுளுக்காக ஒரு விஷயம் செய்யும், அதுதான் என்னோட எண்ணம். இதையும் இந்த பதிவையும் எல்லாரும் ஷேர் பண்ணி விடுங்க. நன்றி. பூர்ணச்சந்திரன், மதுரை. வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு அரோகரா. வீரவேல் முருகனுக்கு அரோகரா.
A political blame game is now erupted. The BJP claims the DMK is responsible for this death, claiming its anti-Hindu policies have led to this devotee taking this drastic step. Vijay, who's seen as a factor in this election, has taken the middle ground. He claims that the matter is in courts and must be left for the courts to decide. And the DMK, the ruling the state government, says it's a sensitive issue and therefore the sentiments of all religions need to be respected. Having said that, there was a court order which the state government failed to put in place. Why is that? And after what we saw with the self-immolation, is it now credible for the BJP to say that it is really the Stalin government that has failed the Hindus of the state? Let's open this up. Shrikant Karne, spokesperson of BJP Tamil Nadu, is with us. Pularao, political analyst. Rashmi Sawant, an activist, joins us as well. Pularao, why is it that we've seen this issue come to such a head that a devotee had to sacrifice his life for something that he believes was rightfully his, that was taken away by the state government, even though a court had asked them to give it to these devotees?
The court has given a view. The other side has gone to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did not stay the matter. This is part of the legal process. The Supreme Court has not given an urgent date. He didn't feel there was anything urgent about it. I didn't fix it. The Supreme Court said so.
Sure.
So therefore, this is the legal process. You want people to go by a district court, they vote. They go to the High Court. High Court doesn't agree with them, they go to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, a bench of 2 judges don't agree, they'll try for 5 judges, then 10 judges. This is part of the process. Unless you don't want to be part of the process. Why should anyone, any litigant, let it be this side, that side, they never give up. They go on till the end, fighting in courts. So this is just part of the process. When the Supreme Court decides, like all issues in this country finally end up in the Supreme Court. I'm sorry to say this. Nobody accepts the High Court. Why? No one.
And why is that okay? Why is that okay for one leg of the judiciary or one court in the country to not be adhered to?
It is absolutely not okay. That is for the Supreme Court to decide and set straight, give orders. There is a standard operating procedure. They should say all High Court judgments will be final, you don't come here, but they're not doing that. Supreme Court has taken up this, given notice. They should have said, go back to High Court. They didn't. So that is, people will take advantage of the process. And in this case, one side happens to not like the lamp or whatever, and everyone. Therefore, you should ask everyone to be patient, wait for the Supreme Court to decide. By the way, how many times does the Election Commission issue go to the Supreme Court? Every time. Every issue ends up in the Supreme Court. I don't agree with it. Supreme Court is overcrowded. Supreme Court should not take up these issues. Supreme Court in USA takes up only 100 cases a year or 120. That's all, or even less. We take up thousands. So that is for the court judicial reform. This is the process. You enjoy the process or you suffer. It depends on which side you are, which issue. Sometimes the court gives relief to one side. Everybody is at the other side. So this is the process. You have to be patient.
Sure, and that process takes a while. I mean, there's a reason why we have commentary about how the judicial system works really slowly in a country like ours. But in the meantime, it is important that sentiments of all religions are respected, and that would also mean that sentiments of the Hindu religion are respected. But Shrikant Karnesh, the state government says that this is a legal matter. It's going on as per courts. One side went to court, got their win. Now we've gone to court and we are awaiting their result. Why is it that the BJP and Hindu rights groups are trying to stoke this kind of communal tension there?
Yeah, I have to answer this very important question. Even the other gentleman now, when we were talking, he said people have to be in peace. They have to wait. They have wait for the court proceedings. We have all the rights to go for appeal. Everything is selling. Wonderful. In 2018, when Mr. Karunanidhi died, DMK wanted to bury him in the Marina Beach near Annadurai's burial ground. when Edapati government refused that time, in the middle of the night, they went and they took an order from a special bench. I think Justice S.S. Sundar and Kumar was there, G. Kumar was there. And they took an order and they gave that order in the midnight to the government. At that time, had Edapati said, you have to be impatient. We have all the legal rights. We will go to the High Court. We will go to the Supreme Court. If he has told that time, the Martin remains cannot wait. Kartike Deepam cannot wait. This is on the auspicious day. We have to do that. And when the court has said, what is the problem with DMK in this issue? We should think, because DMK openly they want to support minority for election reasons, for vote reasons, and they want to create unrest in Tamil Nadu by by disturbing the communal harmony. So when the Dargah management is keeping quiet, when the Muslim community or all those people are keeping quiet, it is the government which is doing. When the judge is issuing order, to light the lamp, who went for stay to the Chennai High Court? The Hindu Religious Board, which is run by the government. What is their duty? They have to do all the Hindu religious rituals and ceremonies have to be performed by the board. That is for that only that board is created. But Hindu Religious Endowment Board, working in the money of Hindus and their donations, they are working for Dargah. They are working for DMK. When the court has issued very clear orders, what happened? The police personnel are not permitting. When the contempt was shared by the Justice Swaminathan Ji, and the CISF Jawans are going there, police is stopping them. Collector is stopping them. All the DMK government machinery is stopping them from lighting the lamp. It would have gone unnoticed, madam. It would have gone unnoticed had they permitted the Ravi Kumar who filed the case, no? He would have gone with 5-10 people, he would have lit the lamp and come back. On this national channel, we need not be discussing all this. Now one precious human life had gone now. What will they say? For need, no, they were making hue and cry when a student died. Now what will they say for a Hindu life? They will ignore it. Now on a national channel, we are discussing this. It is not even discussed in Tamil Nadu media channel. DMK is pressurizing them. I tell you one thing, only one last important thing I have to tell you. What was the problem? Kartike Deepam is lit on the Kartike Deepam pillar inside the temple. Okay, in the nearest vicinity, one dargah is there. Okay. They said after 15 meters, you do whatever you want. It is the temple premise. And they said, but this pillar and dargah is 50 meters away, not 15. It is 50 meters away. So dargah people, they have no problem. I tell you why DMK is doing this. Today, we are all living in a flat. I am a Hindu. Okay. If I want to light the lamp in front of my house, we all put in front of the house, on the compound wall, on the windows, everywhere we keep. Like Deepavali in North
But
India.
the issue in this case, Mr. Karunesh, is that there is contention whether this belongs to the temple or not, whether this is a pillar or this is a lamp post or this is just another
these are all the
structure there.
narratives.
The argument that the DMK and everyone else defending this of why they want to go to court to stop this is that there is no real evidence to show that this has any importance to the temple or to the Hindu community, that it can be done at any other position as well. But Rashmi Samant,
I tell you one example, only one proof I want to give. A book published by Tamil Nadu government in the year 1981, Temples on the Hills. That is the name of the book. Malai Mel Irukkum Thirukoyilgal, in Tamil they say. In the page number, I tell you, it is 129. This Tirupparangundram temple, Kartike Deepam pillar, with photograph, clearly the area is marked. It belongs to the Hindu temple. They call it as a Deepam pillar. In that book, Tamil Nadu government, in page number 129 in the book,
sure.
they have
there is some evidence to back it, but it's not believed by some. But the issue here also, Rashmi Samant, the issue also here is in the larger one at that, is that the kind of allegations that the DMK faces today is because there seems to be a pattern. We've seen the kind of comments that have been made by leaders of the DMK. We've seen in the past the kind of acts that have been done by some within the DMK against one particular community, which happens to be the Hindu community in this case.
Always.
Well, Poonam, I think firstly, everybody needs to get one thing straight. Unless the Supreme Court grants a stay or modifies the Madras High Court order, the state is legally bound to comply. So, merely filing an appeal in the Supreme Court does not suspend the order. So, the learned gentleman here needs to acknowledge the fact that the state is clearly in contempt of court, because the Supreme Court has not modified or granted a stay to Tamil Nadu government. So just because they filed it, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. You cannot blame the slow judiciary now. You cannot blame anything because due process exists. And if you claim to respect the constitution of this country and due process, then you should have complied with the Madras High Court order, which clearly allowed the petitioner to light a lamp on the hill on the day of Kartikai Deepam. So this is clearly a breach. They think they can get away with whatever. They can be in contempt of court, do whatever and get away with it. So that's A. B. There is a clear trend in the way that the DMK politicians have behaved. From the Deputy Chief Minister calling Sanatan Dharma and equating it to a number of diseases, to the many incidents in Tamil Nadu where a temple which predates Islam itself was claimed by Waqf. So these things have been happening day in and day out with the Hindu people, with the believers of Tamil Nadu. And it is, it is frustrating. And I think the self-immolation, this just shows how desperate the community today is in Tamil Nadu, that despite following the legalese, despite going to courts and fighting the good fight, despite having an order that is valid and not modified by the Supreme Court in any manner, there is no justice. Where should the Hindu go except self-immolate himself or herself? Where should they go? Because there is no justice at all. Even if the courts have admitted it, there is no enforcement of justice. There is just the utilization of state machinery to get away with whatever they want to do, with whatever outcome they want, just because they want to appease a certain community, which is, which is so young. I mean, Hindu Dharma predates Islam. Kartikai Deepam, it predates Islam. So I think it is absolutely frustrating. It is absolutely frustrating. Where should the Hindu go except kill himself today in Tamil Nadu? That is the situation today. And it is
Pularao, the court asked you to come at a later date. The state government was well within its rights to have that legal recourse. That is what our country grants them, and that's something that they have undertaken. Would you say that the court has completed all of its duties on every other front? Because when we saw groups there protesting, there was lathi charge there, the police could not control that sort of situation. When we saw this individual, this 40-year-old who had to die by suicide, by self-immolation, was locked up in a police outpost.
I have the same stand for every issue. If my learned young friend is the same lady from Oxford, I don't know if that's her, Miss Samant, I also sympathize with her, if she is the same lady. I sympathized when she had to resign. I sympathized. I wrote about it. I have the same thing. What I say in this context is we need harmony in this country. These are legacy issues. I can understand your impatience. I can understand your self-righteousness. I can understand whatever, your burst of energy. But it's a large country. We have legacy.
But why is it self-righteousness? The court upheld what this so-called self-righteousness, as you call it, is?
One more minute, 30 seconds. You see, you have so many legacy issues in this country. And they're right, they're wrong, the courts and public will decide, and they go on. And elections have consequences. I'm sorry to say this. Elections have consequences because BJP has got a central government, DMK has got a state government. There are consequences. Everybody knows that. Therefore, what I say...
What are these consequences that someone loses their life?
This can't be precipitated. These issues, from my experience,
No.
and overall, this can't be precipitated. And as far as my friend from the BJP is concerned, I can tell you, this is not an issue which is going to get you electoral gain. You have to work on the ground. I'm sorry, I respect you.
Sir,
I'm
give me
telling
one,
you,
give me one explanation. You are a learned
I
lawyer. You tell me,
I
if the
say,
police is coming to arrest me, can I tell
this
the
is not
police
an
I have
issue.
gone, I have
And
knocked the doors of
what
the
you are
Supreme Court.
doing,
Don't
what
arrest me.
my
Can I
experience,
say to the police, if I am
one
knocking
more
the
word,
doors of
one
the
more word.
Supreme Court,
If
can I
what you
tell
are
the police
doing
you cannot arrest
is,
me?
what you're doing is spoiling it for all Hindus. Now, 80% are Hindus. We're all Hindus. You're no greater Hindu than me. You're no greater Hindu. You have no greater right. There is no pontiff for Hinduism. There is no grand mufti for Hinduism. Remember that. I am as good a Hindu as you are. I profess Hinduism. There's no grand mufti. There's no pontiff. There's nobody. I will respectfully say, who are you to say this? Let us have. This will be done by the Supreme Court orders, a day today, a day later. These are legacy issues. Don't push them. Don't push them because there are other consequences which come about long term. You have to be very cautious. This is a country with 4, 5, 6, 7,000 years history. You don't want to demean yourself and be very
Why you are
cautious.
destroying the history? Why you are destroying the history? The
Nobody
Preview
is
Council has
destroying
approved
history.
it.
Nobody is destroying history.
No. Preview
All I'm
Council has
saying is,
approved it.
all
Sir,
I'm
give me
saying
one
is,
example.
take it slowly.
Give me one
Take it
example.
slowly.
Being a learned lawyer, sir, 1 minute. Listen to me. Give me one example. If the police is coming to arrest me, can I tell the police, I have gone and knocked the doors of the Supreme Court. You cannot arrest me, get back. Is it possible in law? If the police is coming to arrest
not at all.
me and Supreme Court, just because by filing a case in the Supreme Court, can I refrain from the arrest warrant? Just give me an example. How is it possible?
Nice example.
You
Nice
are in the
example.
contempt. You are against Hindus.
And that's what the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court also said, that we are tired of pulling up government officials for the amount of times that they are in contempt of court.
Instead of lighting the Deepam, you are going for impeachment.
I'm going to say one more thing
you are
which will
moving
provoke
impeachment.
my friends. But I want to draw it to you. A judge must have the temperament of a judge. I'm not going into the judgment.
Sir, don't get into personal comments. No personal comments.
What is the temperament of a judge? The judge gave an order. It wasn't carried out or implemented on ground. The judge pulled up the officials that were supposed to implement it for contempt of court. That's exactly how it works.
Whatever my friend may say, I respect it. But these are legacy issues. Anyone with a sense of history will know.
But you are spoiling the legacy.
Well, as far as history goes, many would say that what's transpiring today is exactly not what was supposed to happen if you look at historical evidence. But here we are, and hopefully this does get itself resolved very quickly, because we cannot afford to see any more protests, any more vandalism, or least of all, any more loss of lives in Tamil Nadu. But I have to leave it there. I thank you all for joining us here on this edition of Plain Speak. It is a wrap from my side. Thank you so much for tuning in.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
You, what exactly is happening now?